Greetings, everyone, and thank you for being here again with us in our WeAwake weekly meditation. So let's jump right into it. Today, we're doing a track that is part of Stealing Flow Plus. Is that right, Louis? Just give me a thumbs up. All right. Everybody's muted, so the barking dog or the whatever doesn't interfere. So, or the meowing cat, or the anyway, there's a lot of things. So it is a 25-minute track, and there's 6 tracks on this. It's really, really a useful thing for so many. Let me just, the name of this particular track is Relax, Release, and Recharge. And boy, can we ever use that? And is that really helpful? Because we live in strange times, evolutionarily. We have so much information and input coming in, so much stimulus that we just didn't have before. When I was a kid, I lived in Mexico. We didn't have TV, and occasionally I guess we'd get magazines and stuff like that. Yeah, we'd do that. And I think my dad had a radio where he could, one of these long distance radios where he could tune into some news channels in the United States. But anyway, we had the jungles and monkeys and hills and horses and dogs and all of that good stuff. But anyway, so now we are facing a world that just within a generation or two, everything has changed. And we are completely aware of everything, not everything, but things that are going on all over the world, good and bad. And unfortunately, most of it, what we hear is bad because that's what makes the news. And if you're a sensitive soul and you care, that can be really, really, really hard. It can be really painful. And if there's some defenses, like some people just will not listen anymore, which is, that's one way of doing it. But I think we probably have to have some responsibility to keep in touch and do our bit, right? Whatever that might be. But definitely can dial it down and go through media fast. And try that for a couple of days. Just do away with your phone and your computer. How would that feel? That would be like, for a lot of us, it would be like having losing our eyes. We're so connected to it. So anyway, all of that adds to our stress, and things are going on now. And anyway, I don't want to get too alarmist, but we are in rough times. So what do we do with that? Well, one of the things that we can do with that, and I have found over the years that asking the right question is really important. Doing the right inquiry. And later this year, we'll be doing an online vision quest. It'll be a 5-day experience with a group. This will be our 3rd time that we've done it. And we were hoping and praying that it would really be something special. And every time it's been something really extraordinary. And it's been very powerful and very healing for me. Even though my job wasn't there my job was to hold the space and to guide. And Louis will be working with me again this year, which is great. But one of the things that I say in that is you have to ask the right question. It's like, what is my path? Right? What am I here to do? What is my calling? Why am I in this human body right now? Okay. And all the evidence seems to be accumulating over thousands of years, especially recently, that we're not just here at one time. And I would suggest that you go to some really interesting insights into this. Go to Deep Transformation podcast that I do with Roger Walsh, and go to the Christopher Bass. And you can get this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your and some of them are on also on YouTube. So Christopher Bass, that's Christopher and Bache. And he did an extraordinary. I won't give it all away, but just check out what this man. He's gone places that few human beings have ever gone to, and it seems that it becomes quite clear that consciousness is not just an epiphenomena of matter, right? There's just a bunch of chemicals swirling around with gravity and strong weak pull and magnetism, and all of a sudden we get the illusion that we exist and we can think and we're aware. How did that happen? But anyway, that consciousness is before stuff, and stuff is just a constellation of matter, is a constellation of spirit, if you will, or consciousness, or the all that we are. And that's what the mystics have been saying. Some of us have had the experience also, whether we're meditation or psychedelics or however, in our generations, these insights and experiences really become strong and accessible to a lot more people. Back, hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, it seemed that, or at least let's just go back to 1400, 1500, not a whole bunch of people were having this experience. At least it wasn't reported. And now it seems that more of us are having this experience of non-duality of consciousness and all. And part of that, the goal in doing these deep interior meditations, because we begin to learn that stuff, we encounter it, and then we have to figure out, wow, given that, how do I live? What do I do? So today I'm going, and we also have been doing interviews with H.A. Almas and Hamid, and we've talked to him twice on the podcast. And one of the main practices he used with his group, the Diamond Approach, is the process of inquiry. So what I'm going to ask you to do is kind of building on that, but a little bit different. Here's the question, and well, I call it a medicine question, a spiritual question. And medicine comes from the Native American, the use of medicine, not aspirin or penicillin, okay, which is similar. I mean, they help. So the question is, what am I supposed to be learning? What am I here to learn in my life right now, at this time, in this place, given my personal story, given our collective story, given all that's going on? What am I here to learn? And it may become really apparent. It may be something that you have to go back to the well of deep interior practice to further examine. There's many ways. There's almost infinite ways in which spirit or God can manifest. We can't put it in a box, and it may come through a dream. It may just come through a vision when your eyes are closed, or kind of an intuitive sensing of voice interior. And I have to do that when I'm have a question that comes up about what I should be doing in my life, or I have to ask the questions and wait for the answer. So let's go inside and sit up straight, right? Spine straight, if at all possible. And do a few deep breaths. And you might do this. Go count from 5 to 0 backwards. And just go 5, relax. And you feel your shoulders. And this is where I get a lot of my stress in my body. Feel that in your jaw. Relax your tongue and your body and your legs and your feet and your toes and all that, however that works for you. Then 4, relax. And then if your mind goes off, you don't have to start over again, or you might be here for a while. Just go back to where you and then end up at 0 and total relax. And total relaxation, and just feel that. And then was the question, what am I supposed to be learning? right now? What are the lessons that I'm supposed to be learning? And then, and this is really a prayer. This is to higher self, you're asking. Because if you knew it, you wouldn't have to ask the question. Or maybe you do. So it can be just a reconfirmation of what you're doing or deepening of what you already know. So ask that question, just sit with that in silence. And as if, if you ask the question, there will be a response from your deepest self, from spirit, from God, however you want to say that, from your deepest nature. Okay. So let's use this as a chance to recharge and sit with ourselves and just, okay, what is it I'm supposed to be learning? And it might be you need to learn to love your dog, or it may be you need to learn to, you need to write the great novel of our time or something, whatever it might be, or you need to learn to forgive. You need to learn to forgive others. You're learning to forgive yourself, however that is, learning to see God in even the most chaotic and painful and dark places, God in the light. Okay, so let's do this. Well, welcome back, everyone. And that was tracks created for us by Douglas Prater. Brilliant. That was very nice, personally. A really beautiful, beautiful uh, experience. And yeah, I was asking the same question, right? And I think when we get together and we do group work, it can be very powerful for ill or good. There's really power in group action, whether it's destructive fascism or people seeking God or meditating together and creating higher levels of consciousness and understanding and compassion and wisdom. So um, I think on this soul's journey that we have, we all the stuff we struggle with, you know, and for a lot of people that I worked with over the decades now, it's been addiction becomes uh, the center of suffering to leading to awakening and recovery and finding their path. And many people that are far along on the journey of recovery have said over the years that they were grateful that they were alcoholics or that they still are alcoholics. You just can't drink, but that led to uh, to working on themselves and finding themselves and learning about service and learning about who they were at a much deeper level and learning how to give back. Personally, I think my big thorn in the flesh, and that's the Apostle Paul in one of his epistles referred to his thorn in the flesh as a challenge. He didn't specify what it was, and there's been a lot of uh, speculation what he was talking about. So, but and I won't anyway get into that. But he said that was what helped him be more reliant on spirit, and God. And whatever you think about Paul, he did have an impact. The majority of the New Testament is not the Gospels; it's epistles of letters by Paul or alleged Pauls. There's some dispute over which ones are the actual letters written by Paul and what were people claiming to be a writing in his name. But anyway, so for me, it's been depression. And I guess I'm very sensitive. I'm sensitive to the environment. I'm sensitive to the suffering of others. I'm sensitive to our evolutionary struggles that we're experiencing as a human species now on the planet. Now, how that affects all the other species, and so um, that's pretty heavy, and at times it feels crushing, and at times it feels as if there's no hope, and you're just lost, and life is a bad joke that you don't want to do anymore. Okay. And for those of you who have suffered depression, you know what I mean. But that has really opened up my life's work for me. And while I'm not a drug addict or an alcoholic myself, um, yeah, I've certainly gone through times when I abuse, but there's a difference between abuse and getting hooked and where you can't stop and it controls or destroys your life. But working with my beloved addicts, when I would tell my story, they understood that I understood them because of the depth of my own suffering. And as I've said before, my older brother, whom I was very, very close with, like that growing up, he committed suicide. Now, uh, and that and various other things just led to I just going through a time of great pain and great suffering and great darkness. And it led me to, well, I knew I couldn't kill myself, although I wanted to often, because I just wouldn't do that to my family, right? Suicide is so devastating. You think, your wife having an affair, is bad, which is, or something like that. And try someone you're very close to killing themselves. You feel angry, you feel guilty, you feel despair. God, if I could have done this or that. And anyway, it's really, really painful. And the suffering goes on for generations. I mean, I hear people say, well, my grandfather committed suicide. And it's just like, big deal. So it was my not wanting to commit suicide and finding something of meaning that I could give to the world, and in a big way, small way, it didn't matter, just some way that would give me the desire to keep on living and keep on moving forward. So that led me into the wilderness. That led me into vision questing, being a wilderness guide, seeking God, and a lot of practices, meditation, and eventually to WeAwake and a work in recovery, and currently now with the podcast has a lot of purpose for me. Deep transformation, because we're talking about with extraordinary people who are deeply into their journey and talking about all the different aspects of what's going to take to help us make it through this period. As my friend Jeff Salzman said, evolution is beautiful, but it's not pretty. Okay. So, and I forget what his name was, but a teacher I had for a while. He made this list of all the reasons we should be in despair. So many of them gone. Right. The meta crisis, I think they call it now. But one of the things he says, God has an agenda. Yeah. So a power that is beyond our little individual selves, yet at the same time, us, what we are, and evolving and awakening to what we are, and with these tremendous gifts we have as human beings. Was part of it, and we're not alone. Okay, we learned that. I've learned that in my deep meditation and my prayer, and from my friends and loved ones, and from being in the wilderness and being, close to nature is another big thing, or and having a pet or a dog that I deeply connect with and love them, all these things help us show different faces of God. And so that has kept me on the path. And it's something that, I used to be depressed. No, I still suffer from it. I have periods of deep suffering. And I hope, I feel that I have learned to cope with it and not fall into despair, because when you're in depression, and it's like when you're flying in an airplane, right, and you go into a cloud, a dark cloud, it's just like you look out the window and all you see is the grayness, or the rain it just looks like that's the whole world, that's the whole everything. But eventually you come through. Oh, wow, there's the sun, there's the stars, there's the moon again. Okay. And that's what depression is like. It seems to be episodic, and but sometimes it's heavy. And I have learned to pray and to meditate. And when I was doing individual counseling, a lot of the people that I worked with suffered from depression. And I would say, I don't know, probably majority of addicts are also depressives. And if they weren't before they started drinking, they get there on trajectory, downward trajectory of the disease. And yeah, I've learned to deal with that. And again, one of the things that I have found to be so, and I think if it's so for me, it has to be so for everyone. That's what I believe. That's what my heart tells me. Is yeah, one time I was on a panel at our home, kind of a spot. I forget what we were there, but I was with some friends. Diane Hamilton was there, I think, and part of the panel. And somebody asked, our meditation room upstairs is packed with people, and somebody asked, well, what is God for you? That's a great question, because what God is will change as we grow. And my friend Rolly Stanich says that if you're familiar with spiral dynamics and how the different stages of development are given different colors, just so we have a language to speak about these things. He said we all see God through colored glasses. In other words, we all see God through the developmental level that we are or at. And some of us may, at a certain level, really see God as our heavenly Father, and he lives on a planet or lives on a throne, has a beard my color but bushier, I guess. And that's how they perceive divinity. And then as you grow from there, you go, okay, well, that was a mythic story that within it had truth, but it's not a literal thing. So, okay, if that's not it, then what is it? And we go on from there. And sometimes it may just be a deep period of not believing or being an agnostic or questioning and not knowing. But someone once said there's more faith in the heart of a doubting man than in all the angels in the all the archangels in the mind of God. So it's okay to doubt. It's okay to question. That is an essential part of the path, and you just can't buy it. I mean, some levels you can just buy it because that's what the preacher said. But at a certain level, that's no longer enough. You have to do your own exploration and find your own answer. So back to my panel, they asked me, what is God to you? And the answer that came through, and I had some, good answers, because that's something I read and thought about a lot. But the answer was that God is the light that we find in the darkness. Okay. So it's hard, but we have to learn to bless the darkness and bless the suffering. That's a big one, but that's what I found to be so, that in my times of deepest suffering and my deepest, it feels like being dismantled and crushed, is I have been taught things, and eventually I experience a deep, 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 deep inner peace that makes it okay. You touch into some level of being that completely justifies existence. Okay. And Steve McIntosh, who's a friend of mine, and read a book called Developmental Politics, a brilliant book. Check it out. He said that if there is no life or continuum of consciousness beyond what we experience when we're in this body, says then life has no purpose, no meaning. It's a pretty bold statement, but when you think about it, and I think that is so, but that there is meaning, there is purposes, there is guidance, and suffering is part of it. And suffering seems to be a way to wake us up, a way to purify us, a way to get our attention for sure. I would have not spent the thousands of hours in meditation that I have. I don't count them all, but it's been a lot because I do it every day, and sometimes often for more than an hour a day for a long time. I wouldn't have done it without intense suffering. Why not? I'm gonna go have fun instead of sitting there, So yeah, so all that, the study and the prayer and the work and coping with loss and the death of loved ones and your own imminent demise. These are all realities that we can avoid, as much as possible. I mean, you can drink yourself to death if you want, but at a certain point in our journey, we have to ask the questions: what am I here to learn? What is my path? And what do I need to do in order to achieve that? Then that's when you start getting the tactical information. Well, you got to meditate and you got to, exercise, and you have to join your soul and mind with the great teachers, and the wisdom of our ancestors and the wisdom of those who came before us and the wisdom, the lights that are here in the world now. And it's also tricky because there's a lot of light there's a lot of people claiming to know truth and everything, or charlatans, or I don't know, they've been gobbled up by their own shadows and they project it out and claim to be somebody when they're not. And that can cause a lot of pain. It can cause a lot of discouragement and cause a lot of if you get into a scene like that and it finally eventually find out it wasn't what it was supposed to be, you can become very cynical and hardened and say, to hell with it, Or you can say, okay, well, given that, what am I supposed to learn by that? And what does that mean I have to do? How do I deal with that? And how do I feel the pain and the suffering and heal from that and overcome that and use the suffering as the shadow, the dark side, as the energy for change, for purpose, for creativity. And yeah, right now I'm recording an album, and I hadn't really recorded in like 20 years and hadn't written in many songs, and so I'm going, and that's beginning to open up to me. And I think 4 or 5 of the songs are just blues. And my blues are not happy blues. It's existentially dark, suffering blues. And because I understand that and I can get that. And somehow playing that music and making it a poem, making it a song, playing it on guitar, singing it in my voice, transmutes and helps it become more bearable. And it's really a shadow practice for me. So at some point I'm going to share that with you guys. I haven't figured out how to do that, but some of the stuff is coming out. It's really magically good. So we were in the studio the other day, and this musician came in who's anyways part of the Louisiana Hall of Fame of musicians, a big deal in this part of the world. And he heard something that we were working on. And he says, that is very good. And later my producer said, he never says anything is good. That is quite a thing coming from him. So I suspect it's coming through, but it certainly opened up from the suffering. And I think what opened up this creative spurt for me was the war in Ukraine, the invasion of Ukraine. And then I wrote a song about Ukraine. You guys could find Ukraine, John Dupuy on YouTube, check it out. But that opened up that whole side of me. So in the music and in the practice, I do experience God. And that's why we do it. So, okay, I've talked way enough. And I love you guys. Thank you for being here. And when we ask these questions together, I think it adds dynamism and energy to our own individual searches, because we are each other. You are me and I am you, and we are, sounds like a Beatles song, but they were right about that. John Lennon was. So anyway, love you guys. And yeah, hang in there and do the work and the struggle and the fun and the glory of it all. And we're here for a reason, and there's purpose, and you do matter. I hope.